Hey everyone, welcome back to Wixfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a really nice header inside of Editor X. Let's go ahead and get started. So a few videos ago, I showed you guys how to create a website that looks like this. And I think it looks really clean, but I typically create the header and the footer just to save some time for the video. So in today's video, what we're going to do is basically recreate this header. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and create it in this section down below, just to kind of give you an idea of how I built this, and just so we have a reference point so we can build it the same exact way. But the first thing I always do in a header is I always add a container. With this container, I always kind of set the width for the website. So if you've noticed in a lot of my web design videos, if we go back over to the About page, you'll notice that the width of this container is the same exact width that I used for this container, same exact width that I've used for this one, and all the other containers down below it. I really like it when a header is lined up with all of the rest of the content on the website. I think it always looks really clean like that. And same even with the footer. So I always use the header as a way to kind of set the width of my content on the website. So in this case, I used 80 pixel width, 900 pixel minimum width. And basically what that's gonna mean is, as of right now, it is 80% width, but if it ever reaches 900 pixels, then it's gonna stop shrinking. So you'll notice that the window size is still going down, but the size of the container is not. So I'm just gonna go ahead and center this up just like this. And we're also gonna go ahead and set the minimum height to 100 pixels, because that's typically around the size of your headers. And inside of this, I'm gonna go ahead and press the design and remove the background color from this, just so we have something that looks like that. And I'm also gonna go ahead and add a 2x1 grid. Now in this, on the left-hand side, we always have a logo. And over here on the right, we typically have our menu and maybe even a button. Now for the button, you typically want it to be some sort of call to action. So if you're a business with services, you might want to say get in touch. Or if you are a business that has services which people can book, then maybe your button can say book now. But let's go ahead and start with the logo. So we're going to come over to add, come over to media, and we'll just add our logo here, just like that. Let's go ahead and send it to the left and middle. And let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. Not that big. Make it about this size. I think 170 pixels is a pretty good size. So we'll go ahead and recenter it. And what I want to do is go ahead and set the maximum width to 170 pixels, just so that on larger screens, it doesn't get any bigger than this. But we also should probably set a minimum width here as well, because on smaller screen sizes, we don't want it getting super tiny. So you'll notice this one has a minimum width, but this one doesn't. So it's super tiny on smaller screens, which we don't want. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set this one to maybe 140 pixels. That way it's still responsive, but it doesn't get too small. So now we are done with this side. On this side, all we want to do is add a container. I'm going to go ahead and press stretch. And let's also go ahead and remove the background color from this. Now inside of this one, I also want to add a 2x1 grid. And inside this grid, I do want to add like a 40 pixel gap. I think that looks pretty good. In this right column, I do want to add a button. And I already saved this button as an asset. So I'm just going to come over here and drag this button out just like that. Now you can design these buttons however you want, but I typically like these buttons to be decently sized. So I set the height to around 60 pixels. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and align it to the right and center it or vertically. And then I'm going to grab this container. I'm going to select this column and I'm going to set this column to max content. So now we have a lot more room for our menu. So the next thing I want to do is just go ahead and add a menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this one down here. We'll make sure it's in the left grid cell, and we'll set this to be like 100%, and we'll align it to the right and center it up vertically, just like that. And again, this can be designed however you want. You can have different hover colors and different selected page colors, whatever you want. But this is typically how I design it. I think that looks really, really good. And then all I like to do inside of this is grab the main container and then set the height to none. And then we'll also do the same thing for the row here as well. We'll set this to minimum content. So basically the highest element, which is the button in this case, is going to control the height of this container. And typically this will fit really snug inside the header, because the header, like I said earlier, is 100 pixels. But this one is a little bit smaller, but still contains all of the content inside of it. So as we can see, we've basically created the same exact thing for desktop, but now for tablet, you'll notice it looks a little bit different. And the first thing that you'll probably notice is that now it is too big. And that's just because we set our minimum width here. So for tablet, I typically set it to 600 pixels, but also for tablet, no matter what, I typically set the width to 90%. That's just because with tablet and mobile devices, you have less real estate to kind of play around with. So you want to utilize as much as you possibly can. Whereas on desktop, it might look cleaner to have a little bit more space on the left and right. But like I said, tablet and mobile have less real estate, so you want to use it wisely. Now you'll notice on here, the menu automatically hides on tablet and mobile. And if you're designing this inside of the header itself, then you'll automatically have this hamburger menu. Now for me, since I'm designing it outside of the header, I don't have that. So I can easily just come over to add, go to menus, go to hamburger menus, and I can just add this one right here to create the same effect. So I'll just align this one to the right, make sure it's centered. And basically we have the same exact thing here, and that looks really good. Now on mobile, we do something a little bit different. We don't have the contact button here anymore. In fact, we put that inside the hamburger menu. So what I'm going to do is come down to this one right here. Once again, we need to change the minimum width here. So I'm actually going to set this to 280 pixels, just like that. And for this hamburger menu, I want this to be in the right column, just like that. And if we open up the menu, here we can easily just add an asset. We'll come over to our assets and we'll just drag this out right here. We can center this up. We can grab the vertical menu and press stack. So now all of our content is here and available, but it's not taking up space in our actual header. And the last thing that I would really do here is try to make sure that this font is the same as the font that you have on your desktop, which actually, since this cascades down, we actually want to do this inside of this menu here. So what I want to do is just go ahead and open this menu here on desktop. For tablet, it would be kind of okay to do something like this where it only comes out a little bit. But if you wanted to, you could easily just come over to layout. You could easily just set this to be 100 VW, just like it is on mobile, and create the same effect. And if you do want the button here as well, you can easily accomplish that by coming over here to this button, to the stack, and showing the contact button here as well. But what we want to do is change this text here to the same font. So what we're going to do is come over to text, and what we're going to choose is paragraph 1. And I think that looks really good. And if we check it on mobile, for some reason this did not update here. So let's just go ahead and change it here as well. So then once I have this fully designed, I will just simply make sure that this header is 100 pixels in height, and bam, that is typically how I design my headers here in Editor X. But that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and consider subscribing for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I'll see you all in the next one.